In these confused times, we need a new X. Hello, I'm Steve Forbes, and this is What's Ahead, where you get the insights you need to better navigate these turbulent times. A new X? We're not talking about Elon Musk's social networking service, formerly called Twitter, but rather the author of the profoundly consequential article published in 1947 in Foreign Affairs magazine that laid out the strategy for dealing with the Soviet Union after World War II. The strategy came to be summed up in one word: containment. It was one of the most influential pieces in publishing history. The author, George Kennan, was a Foreign Service officer, a deeply learned Russian specialist long stationed in our Moscow embassy. His State Department bosses thought it best that he remain anonymous, hence the X instead of the author's actual name. After World War II, the U.S. had hoped it could keep friendly relations with the Soviet Union, our ally during that conflict. But the Kremlin soon engaged in a series of disturbingly aggressive actions. Despite promises to the contrary, it was forcibly installing puppet communist governments in Eastern and Central European countries from which it had expelled the occupying Nazi German armies. It was refusing to remove its forces from northern Iran. It was maneuvering to control the Dardanelles Strait, a critical international waterway that separated European and Asian Turkey. It controlled powerful communist parties in France and Italy that were positioning themselves to gain control of democratic but weak governments. It was supporting communist insurgencies in Asia. Americans had supposed that once hostilities ended, it could withdraw forces from Europe and Asia and all would be well with the world. Initially, Washington's response was confused and uncertain of how to respond. But two documents, both written by Kennan, led to what became our Cold War strategy of containment. We wouldn't go to war with the Soviet Union to liberate neighboring countries it already controlled, but we would actively work to counter Soviet advances elsewhere, including a huge break from American tradition by stationing sizable and permanent military forces in Western Europe. Kennan's first game changer was a lengthy cable to the State Department pointing out that Russia had a long history of aggression before its communist revolution. Communism was now just another instrument to help extend the Kremlin's reach. Expansion was in the Kremlin's DNA. Kennan's analysis was dubbed the Long Telegram and began to crystallize sentiment within the U.S. government of how to deal with an aggressive Moscow. To win wider support for what would be a radical change in traditional American foreign policy and our role in the world, Kennan subsequently wrote an article based on the Long Telegram for the influential Foreign Affairs magazine. Containment was not just military. It involved promoting prosperity via reducing trade barriers and other pro-growth policies that would create conditions where democratic ideas might advance. Today, we have a world as uncertain and confused as the one we faced in the late 1940s, and we're clearly uncertain of how to proceed forward. U.S. policies have been caricatures. We can make the terrorists ruling Iran into responsible global players. Ill-conceived. Windmills can replace fossil fuels, and ad hoc policies with no reliable and confidence-inducing consistency. To make matters worse, most leaders of advanced economies today are astoundingly clueless about how to create conditions for vibrant prosperity. There is no guiding principle as containment and all that it meant once was. It's high time for a new X. A world at loose ends is a world headed for big trouble. I'm Steve Forbes. Thanks for listening. Do send in your comments and suggestions, and I look forward to being with you soon again.